Hey friends, this is Sean from SGT Report with an extremely important update. And unfortunately, at the end of this update, there's some bad news I do want to share with you. I've promised that I would keep my eye on this administration and what they do, good and bad. And there's many, many good things that are being done, but I do need to share something bad that has happened in regard to our free speech moving forward. Now, number one, I just want to say that among the good news we can expect in the near term is, of course, the DOJ Inspector General's report, the Horowitz report, on the FBI's use of the unverified Steele dossier, this according to Washington Examiner. That's very kind. Unverified versus baked, faked, bought and paid for. But as we await the Horowitz report, we're also eagerly awaiting the report specifically about James Comey, the report that Joe DeGenova told us about on Fox News just 2 weeks ago.
There's another report that everybody has forgotten about involving James Comey alone. That will be out in 2 weeks. That report is going to be a bombshell. It's going to open up the investigation on a very high note, and there will be criminal referrals in it.
And many agree that Comey is in trouble right now, and he knows it because of his involvement in the deep state plot, the deep state coup to topple our sitting president. So a lot of great news, I think, is right around the corner. But I do want to share this with you. I was on a show today with my friend Gran Torino, Rowan Croft. I highly recommend all of you go and subscribe to Rowan's channel. Gran Torino is what he goes by on YouTube. Great guy, fighting for truth in Ireland. And today we talked about 5G, vaccines, and so much more, including the news I'm going to share with you at the end of this video update. Rowan's a great guy, a truth teller. Go subscribe to his channel. And the other thing I wanted to say is if you missed my interview with Kent Lewis, is this the biggest threat to our existence? I posted that last night at sgtreport.com, and I'd ask all of you to go over to Freedom.Social and open your own account. It is the good guys' effort to combat Facebook. It's an ecosystem where we will all be able to communicate, buy, sell, barter, and post video long after the system goes down or we're forced off the Facebook plantation or we decide to leave willingly like so many of us have. So check that out. And I also want to say, if you haven't downloaded the Brave browser yet, it's easy to support sgtreport.com. And believe me, I do need your support. I'll share statistics about that in a second. Give the new Brave browser a try. It's fast. It's private. You'll love it. I'm using it right now. I'll put the link below this video, but one caveat. Here's what happens when using the Brave browser. I'll go back to SGT Report. Because it has this built-in incredible ad blocker, my site will no longer provide any revenue to what we're trying to do if you use the Brave browser to come for real news to SGT Report. I appreciate your help so much, guys, but it's kind of a deal breaker for me. If we get no ad revenue from SGT Report, I cannot pay my contributor over there. His name is Matt, great guy. He's in the trenches with me every single day, posting real news 24/7 at SGT Report. The Brave browser is too good. It filters out all of those ads. So you might want to consider using Safari or Google Chrome or Firefox or some other browser when visiting my site if you want to support us. Just a side note, but I thought I'd share it. Now, guys, as it pertains to the attack on freedom and the attack on media, we're going to talk in a second about this idiotic attack sponsored by the SPLC, of course, by Poynter Institute with their report that came out a week ago about an index of unreliable news websites and their fight to try to get 515 real news websites, including Breitbart and others, banned from the internet. I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. But I want you to see what the powers that be have done to SGT Report specifically, just in the past few months. Now, for most of last year, SGT Report was among the top 14 or 15,000 most trafficked websites in the United States. We were very proud of that. But of course, on January 22nd, YouTube announced they were changing their algorithms to filter out what they call misinformation. What do you think Google has done? They are attacking truth sites and trying their level best and doing a great job to prevent eyeballs from finding truth. They're filtering out any of the tags that would lead new viewers to discover SGT Report or Breitbart.com or so many others that they've targeted, including DaveJanda.com. More on that in a second. So just in the past few months, SGT report has plummeted from 14 or 15,000 in the search rankings to 25,000 in the search rankings, and I'm sure it will get worse before it gets better. The problem is, I don't know if it's going to get better, and we'll get to that story in just one second. But here's the index of unreliable news websites from Poynter. Now, these disingenuous enemies of truth write, misinformation is a thriving industry on the internet, supported by social media shares, advertising dollars, and political donations. And of course, misinformation is what they call anybody that would tell the truth about the deep state coup to topple our sitting president, the ultimate conspiracy to topple Donald Trump. It's all spilling out. The truth is oozing through the pores. The dam is breaking, but they continue to call it misinformation, and they're trying like hell to shut all of us up who have built platforms based on real news and truth. Now, if you scroll down, guys, you'll find 21stcenturywire.com. You'll find actingman.com. Zero Hedge is on this list. As I stated before, Breitbart.com is on this list. Amoland is on this list. This list is absolutely extensive and includes, and I'll scroll down to show you, the libertymill.com and the phaser.com. This list even includes RT.com. They don't want any truth spoken at any point anymore, and they don't want any more people waking up. The Gateway Pundit is on this list. The Free Thought Project is on this list. And right there, you can see the phaser.com, which they label conspiracy. And there's the libertymill.com. Now, I'll tell you something funny. Somebody over at the Southern Poverty Law Center screwed up in their notes because the people who wrote this report failed to include sgtreport.com, which is a much bigger site than the libertymill.com and the phaser.com. And SGT Report and me, SGT, I created the phaser.com and the libertymill.com. And I think the reason that SGT Report isn't on this list is because somebody, and this happens a lot, as I mentioned in that interview I did with Rowan Croft earlier today, a lot of people confuse when they mention my site. They call it STG versus SGT. And I think notes got crossed, and whoever wrote this absurd report tried to search for my site under STG, and they came up with this STG something Gazette.com, which is ranked 19 million in the web rankings, completely irrelevant, but it's labeled fake, unreliable satire. Not sure if they really meant to include me or not, but the phaser.com, the libertymill.com, davejanda.com is on this list, Zero Hedge and Breitbart. These people are insane, and they're terrified of the Great Awakening. I want to share this with you. This comes from Dave Janda. He posted this earlier today. Guess who's behind this report? Prepare to be shocked.
Who funds this Poynter Institute, this bastion of journalism intelligentsia that can pass judgment and demand that organizations such as mine, davejanda.com, be terminated, that be bankrupted? Guess who some of the funders are? Oh, yeah, this is shocking. Sit down. Journalism Institute, funded by George Soros, falsely claims 29 conservative news outlets are fake news. Poynter, the Journalism Institute responsible for training writers and reporters, this from the National, decided to promote a left-wing smear of conservative groups online. The result was a hit job written by someone who works for the anti-conservative Southern Poverty Law Center for a journalism organization funded by prominent liberal billionaires such as George Soros and Pierre Amadar.
Look, I'll pause it there. You guys know these are the same characters that have been targeting Christians and truth tellers forever, and they're not about to stop. Here's the bad news. With credit to Brother Nathaniel, and by the way, I posted this video from Brother Nathaniel on my site, thephaser.com, within just the last 24 hours, and I also posted that same video from Dave Janda, so thephaser.com is the place to catch both those videos in their entirety. But I want you to watch this. This is Eileen Hirschenov, who oversees the ADL's civil rights team, government relations, and the Silicon Valley-based Center for Technology Monitoring Online Hate. I'm going to play this for you, and then I'm going to play the really, really bad news. And what I want you to think about as you listen to Eileen, I want you to think about Who's behind the SPLC? Who's behind George Soros? What do these people, the ADL, the SPLC, George Soros, what do they all have in common?
ADL is one of the foremost non-governmental authorities on domestic terrorism, extremism, hate groups, and hate crimes. For many decades, we have been tracking white supremacists and other extremists, and we have been developing strategies to address these threats. In 1985, we issued a report on how white supremacists communicated on dial-up computer bulletin boards, and we have been working to combat the spread of hate and extremism online ever since, including partnering with the tech industry.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there and just say, first of all, how absurd. White supremacists back in 1985 were using dial-up connections to spread their hate. It's the most preposterous thing in the world. Who was even on the internet back in 1985 besides uber nerds? Certainly not white supremacists spreading their hate via dial-up connections. This is the red herring they use to continue to target our free speech. And my friends, let me introduce you now to the really bad news. The special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, Elan Carr, who in early April was sworn in as the special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism by the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Elan Carr had this to say recently after his swearing in.
We are going to focus relentlessly on eradicating this false distinction between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. The Secretary could not have been clearer. He stood before 18,000 activists at the AIPAC Policy Conference just 2 weeks ago, and he declared, I quote, "Let me go on the record, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism."
Let me go on record. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
That will be our rallying cry as we go forward to fight this ancient scourge that sadly is on the rise today.
Friends, I'm going to pause it there. And as we wrap up this video, I want you to understand how this attack on our speech is just getting started. I don't think we're probably going to get an internet bill of rights or a digital bill of rights anytime soon if this administration is not going to protect free speech for all of us. If there are protected groups, if there are special groups that will get special protections, then there is no free speech. There is no First Amendment. And if anti-Semitism is the same as anti-Zionism, we're in a whole heap of trouble because it's not an ancient scourge. Zionism came about officially really in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration and with the founding of Israel, modern-day Israel in 1948, and then, of course, the Greater Israel Project and the confiscation of Palestinian lands ever since. If we're not allowed anymore to criticize Zionism, then it truly is game over. And those of us that have been speaking out against Zionism, against Rothschild Zionism for so very long, people like Dave Janda and myself and so many others, are we now to be silenced? Do we have to silence ourselves to prevent ourselves from being persecuted by those who claim to fear the persecution of others, by those who claim that they want to set up special rules to protect certain groups from being persecuted? The hypocrisy runs so deep. And I'm really afraid that what we're seeing, this attack on speech and this attack on the alternative media, the truth media, I'm afraid it's only ramping up. And I'm not sure it's going to get better anytime soon. So, though I do admire our president, and he's one hell of a lot better than the witch being in the White House, and I thank God every day that the deep state is being exposed, I did need to share this with you, friends. If this president and this administration is going to protect certain groups and take away the rights of free speech from everybody else in order to protect certain groups, then that officially spells the end of what we have come to know and cherish as our First Amendment. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it so very much. And again, kind of a joke on me. Thanks for downloading the Brave browser and paying it forward. But the Brave browser is so darn good, it filters out all ads, which is going to pretty much kill sgtreport.com in the long run. So you may want to use a different browser when coming to visit my site. Thanks so much. And do check us out at thelibertymill.com and thephaser.com as well. The people over at Poynter Institute don't want you going there, so you know there's good stuff to be found. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Here's what our number one objective needs to be, Sean, and this is critically important to our future. We need to stop 5G, and we need to stop geoengineering. If we do not stop 5G and geoengineering, it's over.